Hey friends, this is Miss Breland, and I am back with another teaching video as I would like to share with you another strategy that we've already been talking about as readers, and that is how do readers determine or find the central idea of a text that they're reading. And I'm going to revisit the text that we began last week called The Science Behind Sight. And this plays right into what we are studying as scientists. And I want to talk a little bit more about how determining or finding the central idea will help us with this text and any other. As you know, this is an informational piece of text, so it's going to give us facts and information about a specific topic. And sometimes when you're reading a piece like this, especially one that is going to be teaching you lots of information, has lots of sections, especially as you become more sophisticated readers. This is not a short read. And at times, what can happen is because you're being introduced to so many different ideas, it can be hard to keep up with all of that information. Well, being able to find the central idea of a text will help you be able to organize the information, especially if it's new information that you're learning. It will be able to help you to kind of keep that information organized and really understand a little bit better what it is that you're reading. So let's talk about how to keep up with the central ideas when there are multiple ones within a piece of text. So, how do we find the central idea? You can find it in a whole text, especially, if it's a shorter piece. You can also find it, especially if you're reading longer pieces like The Science Behind Sight, within different paragraphs. Because sometimes when an author organizes a text, they want to break it down into different sections and teach you different things about that particular topic. So we're going to talk about how do we find a central idea if we're having a multi-paragraph text and it's divided up into different subtopics. So first and foremost, one of the things that you do is you find the topic of that particular section or paragraph. And one of the ways to do that is you're going to be looking for headers or subheaders. And headers and subheaders, as we remember, those are going to be, they're sort of like titles, but they're not, right? Because a title would be like of the entire text. A header is going to tell you what that portion of the text is all about or what that section is about. So if we were to turn to this page on 106, then this section that it starts to talk about is all about light and sight, right? And then, so this is a header. And then the subheader, sub means under, right? The headings underneath the bigger header are here, and those are in purple. So those are the smaller topics within that. So if I were to look at this, luminous things, I'll know that this section is all about luminous things. And this section is all about how light makes shadows, okay? And so on and so forth. So you can look at headers and subheadings like right here to kind of tell you what that particular section is about. So you look for headers and subheaders. And you also can, if a book does not have headers and subheaders, you can look for repeating words. When an author continues to repeat a word, that generally kind of can give you an idea of what that topic is in a paragraph, because sometimes that happens. Sometimes you can have a lengthy text and it not be broken down with those particular text features. So look for repeating words. Then what you do from there is you think about, well, what clues do the titles, the headers, and the subheaders give you? Start picking up clues as you're reading underneath those. Because the question that you want to be able to answer is this. And this will lead us to our central idea. What is it that the author is trying to explain to me, the reader, about this topic that I found? So whatever that topic is, What is it that the author's trying to teach me about that topic or explain to me about that particular topic? Okay? So we're going to go through these steps in the text because one of the things I would like for you to do is, as we know, when we are rereading a text, that is another opportunity for us to take in information, and perhaps it will give us new insight into what we read. So rereading a text is a very, very strong thing for you to do, and it's just, something that skilled readers do so that they can solidify their comprehension and understanding of what it is that they read, especially if it's new information. So as you're rereading The Science Behind Sight, I'm going to want you to very carefully go through the text and find the central idea of different sections here. Okay, well, let's just go back to the section on light and sight. And so what you want to do is, as you're going to each header, that's the section you're going to find the central idea of. So in this particular page, this is all about seeing things. In this section, it's all about light and sight. And light and sight keeps going to this page. And then on this page, it starts to talk about how the eyes work. So we're going to start here on page 106 on light and sight. And I'm going to show you how to find the central idea, for this particular section, okay? So the first thing, first strategy that we said we would do is we will find out whatever the topic is. And so I'm going to look for the headers and subheaders and repeating words. So looking at the header, it says here, this section is about light and sight. And then looking at subheaders, luminous things, which luminous, I remember, means that it's something that gives off light. And then shadows, making shadows light from luminous objects, when it can travel straight through something. Clearly it will let the light in, but if it cannot, if something stops that light from coming through, then it will create a shadow. And then continuing on, this is reflecting light, more sight. So it appears to me that this section is about light, okay? So I'm just going to kind of capture my topic right here. Actually, I'm going to do that in my text right here, okay? So if I were to do this, and you have this in your book, okay, my topic is going to be light, all right? And I found that by looking at my headers and subheaders and just looking for things that keep getting repeated over and over again. And then I'm going to look for clues that this is giving me, information it's giving me about light and about these different subheaders or these topics right here. Okay? And what I'm trying to answer is, what is it that the author is trying to teach me about light? Okay, that's ultimately what I will get to. But first, what I need to do is I'll look for clues. And in this case, this will be kind of like supporting details, okay? And so what I'll do is I'll underline some of that information from each section, right? And I'm not going to go through and underline everything. I'm just going to kind of get like the main thing is trying to teach me from each one of those sections. And so again, if you have headers, subheaders, it's helpful. Even if you didn't, you'll kind of try to find like the main thing, one thing that they're teaching you in that paragraph about or in relationship to your topic. So in here, in this paragraph where it talks about luminous things, the main thing or the main clue from this one is that things that give off light are luminous. I'm going to underline that. That's right there. It jumps right out at front at the beginning. Okay, that does not always happen. All right, but here, this is kind of the main thing about luminous things. Anything that gives off light. All right, so I'm just going to go down here to making shadows. Light from luminous objects travels in straight lines. It can move through clear things such as air, water, and glass. Now, I don't need to underline this so far because it's not talking about shadows yet. That is how windows let light inside our homes so we can see. We say clear things are transparent. If you close your curtains, you stop light from getting inside. The curtains are opaque. Opaque things do not let light through. Okay, it didn't say anything about shadows here, but what I see is that there's a key word, and here's why text features are important. When you're looking at text features, it's going to help you as well. So here I see it mentions the word shadow there, and it has a picture, all right, of the light that cannot pass through a tree. So this caption, a caption explains what a picture is all about. When light cannot pass through something, it can create a shadow. Okay, so I think that's an important thing that we need to underline as well. Okay, if it can get through it, um, light travels in straight lines. I'm gonna underline that too. Light travels in straight lines, but when it can't get through to something, it'll make a shadow. Okay, all right. So then, going to the next heading or next subheader, this section is all about reflecting light. We see luminous objects because they give off light. However, is a signal that there's something different. Most things we see are not luminous. Okay, tables, chairs, soccer balls, and fields do not give off light. Instead, they reflect it. Light bounces off of surfaces and objects around us, and we see them when some of that reflected light enters our eyes. Okay, so reflecting light, because they are giving us something in contrary to what they talked about here at luminous things, is that light bounces off of different surfaces and objects. So we'll do that. Okay? So that's, mainly what they're kind of trying to share with us from here. All right? And then more light, more sight. That's the last one in this particular section. We can see better when it is lighter. When you are in a dark room, a candle illuminates only a small area, but if you turn on a ceiling light, it lights up the whole room. Some surfaces reflect light better than others. Black fabric does not reflect light well. Light reflects best off of shiny surfaces such as mirrors. So, what this section, more light, more sight, is, I think, what is essentially trying to share with us is that some surfaces, such as shiny surfaces, reflect light better than others. It's hard to do this when I'm looking at the computer, so I'm getting crooked here. Some surfaces reflect light better than others, kind of like shiny surfaces do. So what I'm going to do here is take my topic, light, and I've gotten all those different ideas. Things that give off light are luminous. Light travels in straight lines, but if it can't get through, it'll create a shadow. Light reflects off of or bounces off of different surfaces and objects. Also, light reflects better off of certain surfaces, such as shiny surfaces, okay? So, after collecting all of that information, okay, all of the information that I underline here, I'm going to revisit this question. After finding that, what is it that the author is trying to explain to me, the reader, about light? After reading about light being luminous, light sometimes traveling in straight lines through something but not through others to create shadows, light bouncing off of things, light sometimes reflecting better when it's coming off of shiny surfaces. What I think that they're trying to teach me about light and sight is the central idea, and you're going to capture this as well. of this particular section is that light behaves, and when I say behaves, it means it does different things in response to things in the environment. So light behaves in different ways to help us see. Light behaves in different ways to help us see. And I can return back to that same point to say, yeah, it does behave in different ways to help us see because from things like lamps and televisions and stuff like that, it gives off light to help us see. And we can only do that with luminous objects. However, light does behave differently in other cases, like when it is traveling through transparent objects like a window or a glass. Or sometimes light will bounce off of other surfaces around us, like mirrors, to help us see. Sometimes light will, reflect brighter when it's on other surfaces, like shiny surfaces, and not as well on others. And so those ideas help contribute to this central idea right here. So the idea is that and you'll start with this one, seeing things, you will reread each section, okay? And as you're reading each section, because there is a subheader there, what I want you to think about is what's the main thing about the sense of sight that is showing me? Like, what's one important thing or the most important thing that I should underline about sense of sight? What's the most important thing about light and dark? Okay, and that's just this one, right? Then once you have those ideas should come together and relate somehow to tell you, okay, what is it about these two things what is it the author's trying to explain to me about seeing things? All right, and the things that you underline here should come together to help you with the central idea for that. So as you go back through the text to reread it, you're going to find the central idea for seeing things. We've already done this one together. You will find the central idea for how eyes work. So you'll need to read each section again, underlining just one important or the most important thing from each section. So how eyes work kind of goes through a couple of pages. So you'll need to read all of that and then put it together to say, okay, what is it that the author is trying to explain to me about how eyes work? Then you'll read about animal sight. Find the central idea for that after you've read each section again. And it keeps going. And then also you will read wearing glasses. Okay? And then find the central idea after you've read that. And be sure that you're looking at the graphics, okay, and especially the diagrams to kind of help you understand a little bit more about how the eye works and what happens when it's not functioning properly, which would cause people in some cases to have to wear contacts or eyeglasses and how they work. So again, you'll find the central idea of each section, and you will, just like we did for this section, you will write the topic. You will underline the most important idea in each section under each subheader, and then you will record or write the central idea inside your book, inside the margin. Okay? I hope that this strategy helps you understand a whole lot more about the science behind sight. Every single time we come into contact with this text again, you'll understand it a whole lot more. So happy reading, everyone.